Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 164 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Here we go.
Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Have you got a health issue that just won't go away no matter what you try? Then welcome to the Revive Yourself podcast, where we reveal the secrets to long-lasting health by getting to the root cause of problems that no one else is talking about. So you can have more energy, clear skin, healthier hair, a leaner physique, more confidence, and most importantly, do the things you love and live the life you deserve. Here's your host, Ryan Martin.
So people, welcome to episode 164. Got a great show with you with a returning guest, fourth time on the show. I think he's the guest I've interviewed, apart from Jason Christoph and maybe Warren Williams, the most, but in the shortest space of time, Tom Barnett, and we go into a lot of different topics today, which is really interesting, and you're going to get lots from it. In fact, we tackle everything what's going on from COVID right now, Melbourne, in Australia, how they're trying to push through the COVID ID and the health passport, quote unquote, tracking system. We go into detoxifying the body, why fats are really important. We go into water, we talk about sex and masculinity and femininity, as well as monogamous relationships and etc. So there's lots of quality info in this one. It's actually a really fun conversation I know you're going to love. Before we get into that, once again, the show is sponsored by www.reviveyourself.co and our shop there. If you go to the website and click on the shop link on the top right corner, we've got a whole host of products. And this week I really want to dive into the products from Bioptimizers, which you'll find on the if you scroll down there. I said before, last week our website's had a little bit of a revamp. If you scroll down to the Bioptimizers products, where we've got enzymes, the HCl, and we've also got the probiotics. Now, if you haven't listened to my episode with Wade Lightheart, then I definitely suggest you go back. But these are some of the best products on the market for the digestion. The strains of probiotic are exceptional. They're also fantastic breaking down proteins. The mass enzymes, not only do they help you digest food, but they're fantastic for cleaning debris. So if you have them, lots of enzymes, if you take them away from food, they'll actually damage the stomach lining, and these ones don't. They actually help just clear debris from the body. So they're very good at removing toxins. So you can have them with food to help you digest food, or without food to help you clear toxins from the body. And then obviously the HCl, which are fantastic for helping you digest food. Most people have got diluted stomach acid, and this is one of the big causes of acid reflux. You know, the medical industry will tell you that you've got too much stomach acid, which is complete nonsense. If you have too much stomach acid, you'd have supreme health because you'd be able to digest your food. The fact you haven't got enough stomach acid means the esophageal sphincter stays open, and that allows the acid to come up into the mouth, and it causes lots of issues, as well as a very painful esophagus, can be uncomfortable with acid reflux. So up in your hydrochloric acid. Anyone who's taken antibiotics in the past, medication, non-organic food, has a stressful life, especially over the age of 30, the hydrochloric acid depletes, and so this is something you can get. And enzymes as well, your enzymatic production depletes if you're over the age of 30. And so enzymes and HCl, for most people, are something that they probably need to take, and it goes hand in hand with chewing your food, making sure you really chew your food. So before the Tao say, chew your water and drink your food. So basically, if you're even water, move it around your mouth and chew it, and your food, chew into a paste. The other products I want to mention just today are going to be from Ancient Purity. They're vitamin C, liposomal vitamin C. We're going into quote unquote flu season. As I mentioned before, no such thing, but it is vitamin D deficiency season. But other things that are going to help you here are going to be, the vitamin D, which I can say anyway, liposomal vitamin D, which is fantastic, and it's also got K vitamins in it as well, and liposomal means that it's absorbed straight into the mouth as well as when it goes down, so it absorbs in your mouth. Very, very powerful. It means it doesn't give you so much digestive or gastric distress. We've got the liposomal version, and we've also got Ancient Purity's own version, which are fantastic, and you can take up to about 5 to 10,000 IUs there in one dose, which is fantastic. And also the liposomal vitamin C, which is pure from Scotland, whereas most liposome is from China. This is made in Scotland. It's very, very clean, organic, and the combination of vitamin C and vitamin D in these months is going to go a long way to keeping your immune system nice and healthy. Other things that I'd recommend, I recommend that people have all the teas that we've got in the Evolution Organics part of cat's claw, quadrupedra, and in fact, actually, I think they're under the Finchley Clinic banner. If you go click on the Finchley Clinic, the cat's claw, quadrupedra, and paldarco are fantastic for keeping the immune system nice and healthy. Quadrupedra is called Stonebreaker. It really helps the liver and kidneys, clear any stones. Cat's claw is phenomenal for the gut, and paldarco is fantastic for any opportunistic organisms like parasites, antifungal, antiparasitic, antimicrobial. It's very good for that. So yeah, that's the intro for today, guys. I'd always make sure I have them in my pantry along with a few other things, but today's show we're going to go for them because they're going to be essential for keeping you nice and healthy throughout the winter months. So, on to today's show, if I can speak, on to today's show with Tom Barnett. We cover a lot and it's a really fun conversation. It starts off, actually, we started recording then, for some reason I had a power outage, so we start off just mid-conversation. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side.
Just have to, I think, you know what it is? I think when I press record, it does that little clip out. But yeah, the power just went down, which was unusual.
Have you got battery on your, or you got your power's back on, obviously, because of the light on?
Yeah,
the sunlight?
No, I think it was just something just tripped. Don't know why. But yeah, no, this is the light, because it's very grey where we are. It looks night. We've changed. When we first spoke, it was summer here, winter there. Right now, it's gloomy October in England, mate. You'd love it, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't actually mind it when it gets a bit colder. I don't like this. It's horrible when it's cold and crisp. I don't mind it so much. It's just dreary. It's not great. But yeah, you're getting up pretty high now, right? You're getting pretty warm.
Yeah, pretty warm. Yeah, starting to sweat. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's I've never been to where you are, so I don't know about Byron Bay. Gets pretty warm. Not as warm as is it Adelaide that gets ridiculously hot.
Oh, a lot of them do. Melbourne does. Adelaide does. It gets ridiculously hot here too, but it's just there's more often than not you get a sea breeze, so there's always a place you can kind of get cool air.
Yeah.
And it's not as just ridiculous, yeah. But plenty of Australia gets really hot.
Cool. So we were just talking about the 5G pylon that was going up. You had a nice peaceful protest. Hopefully, we don't have a quick recap. Nice peaceful protest. You said the guy didn't realise that the 5 people didn't want it. You actually had people turned up and to go and educate him about that. And we were just saying about if you listen to the mainstream in any of these situations, that you'd think that these things are good, like with the identification thing they're bringing out in Australia for the vaccine ID chip or whatever is going to be in there. And as you said, the only way to really stop these things is just everyone to say, just fuck off with it. We don't want it. Which, you know what, a lot of people, more that I see on social media, there are a lot of people that don't want this. I mean, there's a lot of people that are informed with it. And I think we saw on the survey, one of the guys I mentioned earlier who's taking the British MPs to call through common law. He said, it's the only thing we've got left. You know, we haven't got guns here, you know, they have in America, but if it stands up here, it's going to stand up everywhere. He's got, I don't know if you listened to the interview that I sent you. Did you listen to it, Tom? Do you have time? Probably not.
Yeah, I didn't go through the whole thing, but I saw the gist of it anyway.
Yeah. Well, he was like, I've got barristers or people in like high positions telling me what to do, like how this is the right thing to do. Because as you said before, like protests are like petitions are like begging, whereas this is it. And he said people don't understand that this guy who's behind it as well. He's taken big corporations to court before and won in situations that they thought they were like be laughed out. But he said when it comes to common law, it's very, very different. And it goes above. And he said everything that we've got here. There's no jury in the world. Like everyone we've looked into said that we've got a ridiculously strong case, and it's a tyrannical government. These things have been put in place, and you know, it's not someone who's a complete newbie to this. He's done this many times before. So hopefully, he said, if it gets through here, it sets precedent for every other common law country, which is powerful. But because at the moment, it's almost like no matter how much we resist, it's almost like they just laugh and say, you know, well, whatever, take another lockdown. like in Wales, you've got having lockdown, and up north, and I think you've got some in Australia. So it's almost like the only way out of this is for us just to say, go fuck yourself as a collective. Otherwise, we're heading down a very slippery slope.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just the numbers. If we have enough people just say no, then it's fine. We don't have the numbers yet. I mean, I think, like you said, there's enough people starting to move in that direction. You know, we've got a good momentum behind our side, but at the same time, there's just so many people that are just asleep at the wheel. So that's what they're relying on. But I think, you know, I'm not really sure still that there's going to be that mandatory, that travel chip and all that kind of stuff, that electronic travel thing. It's like, just depends. We'll have to see.
Why'd you say that? If they've come out, I mean, I'm just this is me just asking, if they've come out and said that they're looking to get it done by the next year, especially in Oz, what makes you think that?
Well, first of all, that's an offer, and second of all, they're usually pretty optimistic with their time framing. So if they say that, it's probably another year later that you'll see it, unless they stage something else to put it into place. So there's you've got to consider the economic effect. Like, they're all about money. And if there's enough people who just say, well, bugger that, I'm not flying anymore, there's going to be a lot of money lost through a lot of different means. And from, not just from airline companies, but from the countries who all charge taxes and visas and things when you enter and leave the countries. They're going to lose all of that for the people that don't want to fly anymore and travel travel internationally. So they're going to have to really think about that, because that's where we can hurt them. Is if you just say, well, I don't really care about what you say, go fuck yourself, I'll stay home, or I'll travel within my own country. That can turn some things around. But at the same time, it just depends, because there's so many people who just think that's a great idea because they're under the illusion that that's going to keep them safe. It's like, oh, these measures are a good idea. That's going to mean that we're safe from these people that could come and infect us all because they've watched too many zombie movies and they've turned into zombies themselves. Can't think anymore. So
I mean, just on a basic level, this is the thing that I want to talk about as people on a basic level. If you think you can catch disease from someone else, then by the same premise, you should be able to catch my health. Okay, so if I'm a healthy person full of healthy bacteria and you're ill, every time I breathe over you, you'll be able to catch my healthy microbes. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 or 5 days later, you'd be a spitting image of health, But no, and it's like people don't understand. Like, it's the same with disease. These things don't cause disease. Your toxic body causes disease, and it's just when you actually say it to people, they look and think, it almost like in their mind they go, actually that sort of makes sense. It's like, well, yeah, why do you think only bad things can happen and not good things? So people, even on a basic level, on a common sense level, I said I'll put a post up today on a common sense level. Getting like government and mainstream media and big pharma pulled some fucking scams in their times, but making people think that they're ill when they feel healthy has got to top the lot. Like the world, mate, you feel really good. Oh yeah, but you might be ill. Like you might be ill. So but I feel fantastic. My skin looks great. I've got oodles of energy. In fact, life couldn't be better. But I might be ill. It's like, and people buy into it. Like, it's not the masks are not to protect you; they protect other people. It's like, no, don't worry. Come up and give me a kiss if you want, because I really couldn't. And do you know what I mean? That this basic premise. If you start using your mind, but it's like the Morpheus thing, right? Where people are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, they'll fight to protect it. I feel like some people they want to be scared. They want this to be more real than it is. I mean, you probably find that the same.
Yeah, because most people are bored. Like, people want to hear gossip all the time. They want to hear what other people are saying about each other, whereas I couldn't give a shit. I don't want to hear it. People start saying it. I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. But most people, they want that. It's because they're bored. They're boring. They're literally boring people, and they need something that's like, oh, there's a death toll. Let's count it every day. Let's watch the news. Or, hey, look, there's this stuff going on, and, oh, this is all drama and drama. And it's because they're boring people. They're bored. They're not living their life. So for them, this is some excitement, On a dramatic scale, this is excitement to them. And it's always been that way, but it's just the world we're living in.
Well, no, it has actually. On your first videos, if you're sitting there counting the death toll, like the Olympic medal tally, I was cracking up. It's like people are like that, they're like,
oh yeah, that was the first virus video. Yeah,
I was cracking up. I remember you said that and the other things, and it was like The full retard thing as well. Never got full retard, man. It was good. Yeah, no, I love that. That's actually one of my favourite funny films. That's hilarious when he's in that film. Yeah, when he say, "You're more shredded than the julienne salad." It's wicked, isn't it? Yeah, old Robert Downey Jr. But you're right. This is the thing. It's always been that way. It's just distraction. When you listen to people like Mark Passio speak, when you listen to people like Michael Zarian speak, they talk about these things are just distractions to give the common person like a bit of excitement in their life. That's what all these things are, like the NFL or the football or whatever it is. They're distractions to stop people being spoiled from their normal lives, and it just gives them something to talk about. Or that's why people sit there watching TV programs, because it gives them like a full sense of having some excitement in their life. And same as this, right? It's just it's like I've got, like you probably, I've got so much going on. This is just a hindrance. This is a pain in the ass to deal with, and because it sort of falls in the realm of my world. The other thing I saw you do to talk on the other day of masculinity, which I think I want to touch on, because it falls in the realm of my world where I know about this. Like I know about health. I know what causes health and disease. So do you. And so I have to speak up, and I wouldn't be a man if I wasn't speaking up. Like I just couldn't not do it. It's similar to you. But it's the other thing they've been doing that someone pointed out, and I've known this for years, how they've taken an attack on the masculine, like real men, and tried to put it as toxic masculinity, and trying to say like, trying to make men the buffoons, like in any comedy show. Every masculine, like every dad's like a buffoon, and all the women are strong, and trying to make the roles reversed. And there's many things that go into this, like if you teach women that they need to be more masculine, then they lose their feminine, and then men don't know what they're doing, and the gender roles and all these things that have been done, like all that probably leading up to this point where they've got less masculine people, true masculine people, to actually stand up against them. Because apart from yourself and Jason Christoph and a couple of others, I see a lot of women speaking out on this and not as many men.
Yeah. Oh, there's quite a few guys in our country. You got Nick Patterson, who I think you've had a chat with, Nate Fanos. There's a few, but I agree there's a lot more, especially when you see it in the streets. Like, Amy that we both chatted to, when her and her mum went out to a store and they wanted to just go without a mask, and they stood their ground and all that, but their dad was just like, no, I don't want to do that. As there's a lot of guys that are just not doing stuff, and there's a lot of women are the ones that are going and saying no and standing up and walking at the front of the rallies and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot of women. And on one level, it makes sense to me because the world has been so far out of balance that it's the feminine that was always going to heal the imbalance in the world. So it kind of makes sense that the women are doing a lot of the standing up at the moment. But at the same time, it's pretty much taking on a masculine element, unless they're really coming from that strong feminine principle, which is what a lot of them are doing. So that's why I think it's having a good effect. But I agree, it's like where a lot of the guys at the moment, I love that meme that goes around, and it's this dude pulling his pants down or whatever, and he's got like nothing between his legs, and he's got like women's undies on, and it says a man undressing after a hard day of wearing a mask. And it's just, every man in the world should be going around without a mask, basically.
That whole thing, it makes me like, it hurts me in my soul when I see that, because you walk around and you can't even smile at people. But well, you can, or I can, I smile, but you can't even tell what the people are thinking. And the day when we was out and we popped over to Crete and I was out and talking to girls or whatever, like boy girl interaction, and we're in a mask. I'm like, I don't even know if my chat up lines are working here because I can't see your face. And she was like, no, it's fine. Like, okay. I was like, cool. I was like, take your mask off, fuck's sake. Like, I don't care. Like, trust me. But because people work, I get it. People don't want to lose their jobs and stuff. But even if you go out and you smile at that old lady or whatever it is, or you help anyone or whatever it is, you can't. It takes away that human interaction, which is so powerful. It's how it boosts your immune system, smiling at someone, right? And just having that there. And so that's another thing. I'm almost like, this hurts my soul. Just walk in the shop and see everyone wearing a mask. I'm just like, this makes me feel like, how many of you still believe in this bullshit, and how many of you are actually like really scared? Like, how many of you are actually on the fence? There was actually a stat come out the other day. It was like from the government website, so that 17% of the UK think this is bullshit. Basically, think this is a hoax. And so if they're saying 17%, it's probably more like 25. Because
that's a good number.
Yeah,
Good
that's
number.
a good number.
You
More
know what
people.
everyone should do though, and what everyone should do just as a signifying thing is if people still, because you know how some people are just like, yeah, I know this is all bullshit, but I don't really know enough. I don't want to rock the boat, and I don't want to like. I just need to get through this and let it blow over. That's what a lot of people might be thinking. If they all just put something on their mask, like colored half of it in a certain color, so that everyone that you see, like, yeah, okay, they're on our side, they're on our side, they're on our side, and before long, you might see half the people that are wearing masks have like this specific color or symbol on their mask, and you just go, well, this is it. And then all of them just go, well, I'm not alone. Like, look at all of this. And then they'll take their masks off, and it's just,
Mate,
it'll all fall over.
that's quite a good idea. Should we put something out for that? I mean, we just have.
Yeah,
But like,
you should lead it for the UK.
yeah, well, I don't. Well, I'll say if you don't wear a mask, like me, don't wear a mask. But if you do wear one, what color? What color symbolizes freedom?
Yeah, yeah.
What color would that be? God,
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
like the yellow vest was a big movement. It's all just like a yellow vest. It's like, well, there you go. It's super simple. It's just a certain color just represents freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There must be a
I don't
color.
know what color.
There must be a color that represents freedom, or does not believe in the bullshit. Freedom.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Got me now? Got me now?
Yeah, you just
Cool.
muted yourself.
I was going to say the color of freedom. You probably come up with the American flag, which would be ironic.
Yeah, probably.
But like, no, we'll look into that. It's yeah, definitely could do. You definitely could do something like that, because that would let other people know. Because sometimes people don't do it because they're afraid that they're going to be the only one one standing out, right? And so they don't like to be the only person. Whereas I actually quite enjoy that. It was like cool. I mean, the other thing I've got, you can have these. So you've got these things as well, because sometimes I can't even be bothered to argue with people. So I have these, as you've probably seen. Have you seen these?
Yeah, no, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, if someone's coming, because if you get on a plane and people want to argue with you, I just go like that, and it just like gets away the argument. Or I've got the documents as well, because apparently now, before I've flown, not wearing a mask, and apparently now they're asking for your documents. But I've got the documents you actually put up saying like, I'm happy to wear a mask as long as you can prove this, this, and this, and this, which is quite interesting. And yeah, no, we'll do that. We'll have a look at what color we can even put up a poll. What color would best suit it?
Yeah, we should do that definitely, because it would really work, because it's just something that instills a uniformity and solidarity between everybody that knows or is on the fence, but is like not quite at the level of just being able to brave it like you're doing. They just need that little bit of extra support from everyone else. It's the worst seat in the world.
do you wear a mask?
No. Well, no one. Well, some people do around here, but we don't have any mask laws here or anything like that. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that your police are getting. Well, I've spoken to Nick. He's seen that the police are getting a little bit tyrannical, a little bit like with a few things he's done, like trying to ward off like protests and things like that. They've been
in Melbourne. Yeah.
Is he in Melbourne? Is he?
Yeah.
I thought he was the same gym as you. No.
So he's where all the bad shit's going on. Nick's in the heat of it. Yeah. We're probably in the luckiest part of the country here, or one of the luckiest parts.
Right.
Yeah, like the police were really on our side today. They asked a couple of times if we could spread the crowd out a little so they didn't have to do anything about it, and I just said, yeah, I'll make the announcement, and I did, and everyone just spread out a bit, and I go, you happy? And they go, yep, and that was it.
How comes there's such a big difference?
Well, what's going on in Melbourne is you've got the UN occupying the place. So those people wearing black, they are the I forget the name of whatever they're called, some peace force, something from the UN. They're
peace force.
Yeah, and they dress like stormtroopers and that from Star Wars. So I forget the name of it, but basically it's part of the New World Order. They're serving the Soros companies and things like that. He's got like a specific task force that is for that, and that's what these people are. And it's filtered through to the Victorian government, which is now, well, always probably was, but is definitely now Chinese owned in Victoria.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so these are all foreign occupying forces. All the police forces for the last since the late 70s have been, well, I might have got the date wrong, but around then, have been foreign occupying forces, because it's a foreign registered corporation, which means that they are foreign mercenaries. They are from a foreign corporation, and now they literally are from a foreign corporation because they're all Chinese owned and stuff now in Victoria. So they're fucked basically because, well, not sorry, I'll back that up in a second. But currently, that's what's going on. That's why people are under such weird and stringent rule, is because of the power play that's going on behind the scenes. And so all of this that's going on down in Victoria is to cement this changing of the guard, where there's this ownership battle taking place. Well, not even a battle, but a buyout and a takeover. And it's also being used because they've shown that they can lock the state down to such a degree that no one's really doing anything, that's their test bed. So now that'll be the model to use for the rest of the world. It's just the easiest place to do it. That wouldn't happen in Berlin or Paris or London or New York. That wouldn't happen because the population in other places is too fiery, too onto it, too many people. But you can do it in Australia. You really can. It's the test bed. So that's what's going on.
Interesting. I don't know. They've tried to do it in Liverpool, and Liverpool has protests, but we're seeing it goes on because I feel like people of the north east, northwest would actually kick up a fuss because of what's gone on before with, even like politically. Like I don't really buy into politics, but politically, like they've been sort of, when they lost all their jobs, when Margaret Thatcher was in office, when she was Prime Minister. They'd taken away, they privatised a lot of the stuff, and they lost a lot of industry there. And they sort of stopped. They had the whole picket line, the scabs. I don't know if you probably know about that, yeah. And so it's sort of like now, it's like it's weird because in Lancashire they haven't locked down gyms, but in Liverpool they have. And there's one guy who's actually said, "I'm keeping my gym open." They keep hitting him with £1,000 fine every hour, like £1,000, then £2,000, £3,000, and he's got people on his side. And it's why it needs to like go to. I mean, the common law court is the only way. The guy yesterday was talking about how people think it's far fetched, but we actually want like Boris Johnson, Matt Hancock, all these people. We want them basically do. So this is seen it before with like these. It's basically treason against the people. The thing is, people going about the Tory government or whether, it doesn't matter who was in their power. It would have been the same people doing the same crap. Which people are still like buying into the political thing of it. And same with actually Trump. What did Trump come out and say yesterday? He said something about. He came out and said something about against vaccines. I think. What did he say? Did you see that?
No, I've heard a lot of people have been saying something about vaccines are going to be what's going to allow people to go back to normal. That's I've heard that being said from a few. He actually
come out and said something yesterday. I can't remember exactly what it was. Actually, I'd have to have a look because he come out and said something against. Oh yeah, he said no. He actually came out and said the lockdowns are unscientific and claimed they needlessly destroy millions of lives. That was yesterday.
Yeah, right.
So, it's quite interesting that. See, I don't really know. Where do you stand with Trump? Do you think he's still part of the New World Order? Do you think he's actually someone going against it? What do you think?
I don't know because I don't follow enough of that stuff to know. But if I had to put money on it one way or another, I'd say that he's on the side of opposing the New World Order.
Oh, would you? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, just coming out with that. It's just like, but that's the thing. Like, the lockdowns even being so unscientific, everything's coming out, and then they've got, as you said before, like the jabs that are coming out as well. They're trying to bring out, Bill Gates and everything. He's saying that he said, I think they came out today and he even said that these masks are not going to be here for a short period of time. They're going to be here for a long period of time. And looked into the vaccines. And do you know who Dr. Sherry Tenpenny is?
No.
She's like she's big like vaccine.
Sherry, yeah.
Sherry Tenpenny, yeah. She came out and said like people have the flu jab combined with this new vaccine. It's almost certain death. She reckons it'll wipe out millions, which they'll then blame on, COVID. This is like the other thing that you go into. You had it in winter, but we're now going into winter, and this is what they're going to do to push up.
Yeah.
Do you know how they combine the flu and the pneumonia statistics as well? So it's like when they say, people died from the flu. Well, in 2018, 650,000 people died of the flu in the US. It was like, well, probably 625,000 of those were actually pneumonia. They weren't flu, but they just put it together so they can ramp up and say they can put out a new vaccine. So I mean, it's almost like everything that's been conspiring over the last few years all come. Well, it's not as if it's all come to this point, right? With vaccines, track and trace, getting rid of the masculinity, and it's yeah, it's well. I think it's weird because someone said the other day if they'd had this sorted out properly, then there wouldn't have even been a resistance to it. Like the fact that they didn't have it completely solidified. It's like the 5G. I mean, I think with the 5G, if they had that in place before, I think things could have been a bit different. I mean, have you got any actual 5G in your area?
No, we've opposed all the towers in this area, but within I think 25 k's in either direction, they've got 5G in, or 50 kilometers, something like that.
Yeah, and it's just like when they come in as well, they're ramping them up. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's like no one really knows. Have you seen have you read the book, or have you seen the book, What Really Makes Us Ill, Tom? Why everything you know about disease is wrong. Have you seen that?
I know of it.
Yeah, about
it's talk about the invisible rainbow, is it?
Yeah, so they talk about EMFs, but they also talk about toxicity, and poor food. And the other one, which is like the whole consciousness of the world being scared. As you know about like the nocebo effect, and when everyone's scared, they're much more likely to have an environment that's susceptible to any opportunistic organism. But also, it's just going to like chronically raise their cortisol, make them just drop out the immune system, so they can just be ill. And it's something that like you've seen across the world, like the whole world has been like that, apart from countries like Sweden. Have you seen Sweden?
No. Are you talking about recent stats or whatever? Or
no, they just haven't locked down at all. They've just been going about things as normal.
No.
Yeah. I know. So it's like when everyone wants to be scared, why wouldn't they just look at someone like Sweden and go, "There's nothing actually to worry about." It's really interesting. I mean, it's like, do you get much news from other countries over there?
I don't get any news.
You don't?
Because I don't give a shit about it. But we get news from all around the world here. I just don't look at any of it.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, but I mean, like in terms of like, you don't even look at what's going on.
No, never.
Really? Never.
No.
So how do you know what's going on there?
I don't. That's why I don't know what Trump's doing or what Sweden's doing or what England's doing. I barely know what Victoria's doing.
But like what's going on in the world.
No, I just know how the world works. I don't really know what's going on. It's like I just know I just know the patterns, and I know the signs, and I know the agenda, the grander agenda, so I can figure out what's going on if somebody asks me a question. But I don't know who anybody is. I didn't know who the Prime Minister of our country was till a couple of months ago. And someone was asking me about some guy in Canada. They kept saying the name, and I'm like, who is that? Like, who are you talking
Justin
about?
Trudeau.
That's the guy, yeah. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. I didn't know who the Prime Minister of your country was either. I got caught out not caught out, but somebody was asking me to choose between Trump and whoever your guy is. And I'm like, I'm like, I know who Trump is. Who's such and such? And they go, he's the Prime Minister of England. I'm like, all right. It's like people, they're irrelevant people to me. They literally mean nothing. They're less than irrelevant. So I don't want to waste, even just knowing that Trudeau's name is a waste of brain space to me. So there's so much more I could do with my mind than to know who's, because they're all puppets anyway. They don't do anything. They're just puppets. So as far as what's going on in the world, it's kind of easy to figure out without needing to like be looking at what's being fed, because you already know that what's being fed is fake or a half truth. It's never fed truth at all. Even when you hear Trump or whatever, if he is on the good side, anything he's saying is in code anyway. He's never actually saying what's actually going on. Neither are any of them. There's always code. So you have to be able to decipher what it is that they're really talking about. And it's always been the case. It's always been, well, JFK kind of like said it straight out and then got shot in the head. So it's like you say things in code, That's what they do.
Well, it's actually got his, I think it was his dad, or Robert Kennedy Jr. Do you follow him at all?
No, but I know what he does. I've got friends that basically I hear through friends. They go, oh, Robert Kennedy Jr. is doing this, or Del Bigtree's doing that, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, right.
Yeah, well, he seems to be like, I mean, he's come a lot about when it comes against the vaccine companies and these, big pharma in general. And is when people understand how it's good, because when he pulls out the figures and stuff, because you can't, a lot of these countries, you can't get into their books. America, you sort of can. And when you look at how much they've paid out in fines just for the last 10 years, the last four the four biggest companies have paid out over £35 billion in damages.
Yeah,
By
wow.
35
billion.
35 billion. So people don't understand how much billion is. So a million seconds, Tom. How many days is a million seconds?
I don't know.
11 days. It's just so people understand how much a billion is. People they chuck a billion out, they don't realize. So a million seconds is 11 days, roughly. A billion seconds is 34 years, right? That's the difference. And you talk about 35 billion, in the last 10 years. That's just the four biggest for falsifying science, for killing, maiming people, falsifying penalties, fines, falsifying science, literally corrupting, paying, like bribing individuals, bribing boards. I mean, it's actually like it's just amazing. And people still trust these are the companies that are all making the vaccines. Putting in, and people don't understand, like Johnson & Johnson put asbestos in their baby powder. And all you have to do is look at a film like Erin Brockovich, which you probably haven't watched. But anyway, the details of what the water supply in basically in one of the towns in America, which is like Flint, I suppose, in America, where tumors kept getting tumors, and the company got so much money they can just keep paying people off until you actually finally get someone that's prepared to go the full distance, and they realise that how much money they get. And people think this is all conspiracy. It's like, do you know how many of these things actually exist? But they got so much money they bury it so people can't talk about it. And so it's one of the things that this is like the 5G companies. Now they're 5 times more powerful than Big Pharma, so they completely control the narrative. So yeah. Anyway, what else has been going on, my man? What else you've been getting into? Like, how have things been going on your side in terms of health? And you've been getting lots of questions. What are the things that people have been asking you most?
Well, it's pretty varied, but it's just really varied. The Q&As I do are like, there's a lot of different questions. I tend to get some that are asked over and over, but it's usually something like, how do I fix some skin condition, or whatever. So it's more there's a lot that people are starting to pick up on, which is good. Just with regards to the quality of food, and I think the one that I did that got the most kind of reaction was the video I did on water, and the role of water, and how much you should and shouldn't drink, and all that sort of stuff, and how most people are over consuming water, despite what you're told is health advice of drinking a ton of it. And then so many people got back to me within the weeks after that and said I'd cut down a heap on the amount of water I've been drinking. I feel so much better. That's heaps of people. So I think that was one of the ones that changed a lot of minds more than any of the dietary stuff so far.
Okay, well, it's interesting. What was you saying? Because I know Paul Chek's a big believer in the best solution for pollution is dilution, and drinking a certain amount per ounce, like certain amount of ounces per kg of body weight. What was what were your thoughts on that?
No, I don't like that, because it equates to around 3 liters of water a day, and it's just not. It depends on a lot of factors, though. That's the thing. So, it depends on a lot of factors. I still think 3 liters is too much regardless, but at the same time, it does depend on, how polluted a body is and how much cooked food that they're primarily eating, which is what most people are eating. If people are eating very highly processed foods that have zero water content, you are going to need to up the amount of water that you're drinking, but either way, it's still a solvent. So it's not bioavailable water, so it's still not really that healthy. So it really does depend. But there's a few things I don't really agree with Paul on, but I still rate him as the best guy in the world as far as putting everything together. But no one individual, no one man has all the answers. And so, like anybody, he's got things that I think aren't up to scratch. But overall, I think he's done so much for the world that, it's kind of. And the other thing is, too, you just got to remember that if you make a lot of money from putting something forward, it's real hard to then go later and just go, actually, shit, I found out that's a bit wrong. It's like you've got to make a moral decision of whether you go, I was wrong, even though I've made all this money or whatever, and then I'll change it, or do you stick to your guns and you say, no, that's the right way? And I think that confuses a lot of people once they get to a certain level of notoriety and wealth. I think it can really influence the way they think, and they have to, or their mind just closes in certain ways, because otherwise, they hide. A lot of people, their competency is bound by the money that they make and things like that. And I think that can change a lot of people's ability to keep a really open mind and to be an eternal student and to always be open to a different way of looking at things. And not saying that that's Paul, but it does affect a lot of people for sure.
So go on. So what's your take on? So you're saying if you're actually eating a lot of raw food and fruits, etc., you need less water than you think.
Yeah, way less. You can do none. I know plenty of people who drink no water. It all comes from foods.
So even if it would that not as well. So for me, so the more toxic people are, but also if people are exercising quite a lot, spend a lot of time in the sauna, for example, if they're actually sweating quite a lot, they'd have to replace what they've lost.
Yep. Yeah, well, kind of, but that comes from foods as well. So the maximum that I'll drink in a day is 750 mils. That's if I have a really hot bath and I've exercised. 750 mils of water, because most of the and that water is also structured, so it's got lemon in it, or apple cider, or it's got ginger in it, or something that actually makes the water more bioavailable. It's not just plain water. So you're looking at, you just up your amount of vegetable juices, for example, or the amount of raw milk that you drink. That's all primarily water. That's mostly water.
It's interesting because a lot of people would say, like, anything. So I've read research that says if anything you're drinking that isn't pure water isn't hydrating, because it has to go through the digestive system. Even if you're drinking teas, it gets digested. The body reads it as a food, as not just as a hydration supply. So I'm happy to change my mind and to open things. I just do what generally works best, or I've seen work best. And a lot of people, when people come to me and you anyway, Tom, we change so much. So over the time, we don't change it all at once, but from like 4 months down the line, they've changed so many things, from their sleep patterns to the quality of food they're eating, to what they're listening to the exercise they may be doing, to they're doing breath work, and there's many things what they're doing that, and you put it all together. But for me, it's sort of like when people, I feel like people are chronically dehydrated just because of constantly drinking coffee. There's a pub on every corner in England, so people are constantly having alcohol, and even they're drinking things like fizzy drinks. And so for me, they're constantly, they're diuretics, teas. I mean, in England, everyone has a cup of tea, and then they're drinking these things. And so it is different if you're having your diet like you're having a lot of raw food where it's a lot of water. But it's interesting, a lot of research. I'm trying to think the guy who's got the book out about water. I can't remember his name. Talks about how every disease comes from the fact that we're being dehydrated, but also how the gut reads any liquid that isn't pure water as a food. Don't know if you've read that research as well, but
no, but it's technically true. But so you're right. Coffees, teas, they're diuretics. So if your diet is all like processed and highly cooked foods, you're not getting water out of those. You're just not. So you have to bring it in other ways. If you're drinking coffees, alcohols, teas, soft drinks, they are also going to be dehydrating. But those aren't real foods. So there's a huge difference between that and eggs, like raw eggs, milk, raw vegetable juices, whole fruit, even raw meats, 60% water. And that's all bioavailable water. Because what happens is that in order for water to get into a cell, you have to have the channels open up. You got the sodium and potassium, sodium potassium channels that open up to let things in. They fire from an ionic charge. Water that is not bound by an ionic charge won't open those. So what you do is you just flood your system, you overload the kidneys. When too much fluid comes in, the body has to dump, it has to thicken the blood. So it dumps fluid from the blood directly to the kidneys. That's why people piss every hour. And they can't, you're not supposed to piss more than every 4 or 5 hours. That's normal. If you piss more than that, you're putting too much through your system. And when the blood dumps fluids, you're also washing out minerals. So that's why drinking, like you look at, the way I figured this out, by the way, before I looked into research, was I was just like, I'm carrying around liters of water with me a day. And I'm like, this can't be natural. Like if this system falls down and there's not a water fountain on every corner and these fancy fucking drinking bottles, I'm like, where am I getting this water from? So I start looking at tribes and I start looking at anthropological studies, and I'm like, these guys are super healthy. They're not lugging water around. Like the native Aboriginal Australians, they're out in the middle of the desert. What kind of fucking what? They get bits of water, but they're out in the desert for days. They don't drink water. So then you're like, well, why are they healthy? Like, what's going on? What is it that makes their body maintain homeostasis? Where are they getting water from, their fluids, and why are they really healthy? So I was looking at tribes, and I was looking at all the people around the world who don't do what we do and lug all this water around. At the same time, I was pissing really regularly. I wouldn't sleep a night without getting up to urinate, and just other little things that were just I didn't attribute to water at the time. But as soon as I started cutting the water right back, all those changed. My sleep improved. I would, partly because I wasn't getting up to urinate, but partly because my sleep just improved as well. My body temperature was higher. My digestive system worked better. My moods were better. Everything was better. Skin was not as dry. And then I started going, okay, well, why is this and where are we really getting water from? And that's when I started looking into other people's research around that and found the way that water actually gets into the cells and hydrates a cell. And most of the hydration in the, like the, not the hydration, but the lubrication in the body is all from fat. Like water doesn't lubricate anything. You put water on a fence, on a hinge on a fence, it'll rust it because water's a solvent. That's its primary function. You look up and on any chemical list, the highest solvent is water on any list. It's a solvent. That's what it does. When you put it into the soil, when it goes into the soil, it breaks down rock. That releases the minerals into the soil. The plants can uptake the minerals. Water is always a solvent. It's fats that lubricate. Fats lubricate our joints, nervous system, and everything else. And so when you're fat deficient and you're overhydrated, all you're doing is washing out minerals. You have a tendency towards dry skin, aching joints, and things like that. So the water that gets into the cells most easily and best is the water that is bound ionically from its osmolality and has co-nutrients and cofactors. So that's raw vegetable juices, whole fruits, raw milk, raw eggs, and, meat. Like I said, even meat, 60%. All the rest are 80, 90, 95% water and all bioavailable because most of the water you drink, plain water, despite what that book says, I actually pissed most of that out. Pretty much all of it. You piss that out.
It's interesting, yeah. It's interesting. It does sort of like this is the only thing. It's like so that does make sense. I'm open mind to it. Like thing is when the other thing, most people as well. One of the things that you swap it with, I say to them like, if you just swap it with it's with these tribes. One of the things I say with them is, would they drink more water if it was more readily available? It's like one of those things that would they drink more if it was more readily available? Has their body adapted to the situation they're in where it's not readily available? For example, there's tribes in Australia that eat more meat because it's more readily available, and there's ones where it's not, so they eat less meat. It's the way that our body. And I think it was who was the researcher? I think it was Byron. Anyway, he did a lot of research on the entron, and he found that like the digestive systems of men, of humans, went everything from 22 meters to 44 meters, depending on what. The bigger their entron, the smaller. So this whole thing, the human body's great at adapting. And if you're around areas where there's not enough water, would you drink less, and would your body adapt to it? So I do 100% agree that fruit is very hydrating. Vegetable juices are hydrating. So that's an interesting. I might even give that a go myself because I always drink. I suppose, but then again, it's weird because, like yourself, I do a lot of exercise. I enjoy it. It clears my mind, and so I do sweat quite a lot. And I like to go in the sauna. So I'm generally sweating quite a bit. I'd say 10 to 11 times a week, maybe 12 times a week. Yep. So would you say that have water with like salt water in? I'm going to give it a go because I've always like had reasonable amounts of water, I suppose. I'll give it a go myself. Like, would you say?
Or just stuff like lemon. And so like squeezing lemon juice or something in, because what that does specifically is it structures the water. It gives it a better ionic charge.
Squeezing lemon into the water.
Yeah.
Or just having lemon juice.
No, squeezing the lemon into the water. Yeah. It just makes it more available. And then raw honey as well. You can put some of that in. It really helps. Not all the time, but but yeah, I mean, sweating a lot, it still doesn't make that much difference. It's you just up the intake of foods that have water in them. Like, for example, certain foods are more hydrating than others. Tomatoes, for whatever reason, I can't remember the reason, but tomatoes are extremely hydrating. So it might have the equivalent amount of fluid in it as an orange, for example, but for some reason the structure and the nature of the tomato is extremely hydrating for the cells of the body. So it's just different things have their so for me, when I get extra thirsty, I just eat more eggs. I just throw more eggs down, and then the thirst goes away.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like thirst is a weird thing, because it's like you start drinking water and guzzling water, you get thirstier.
Yeah.
Well, it makes you thirstier. And what's as important as the amount of water you drink is how you drink it. If you're sculling the water, that's what causes the blood to dump the fluid, because it has to thicken the blood to maintain homeostasis, to maintain body heat. And so sipping, it's a lot better of a thing to do. Yeah, but it's how moving the water around your mouth, right? So it's where mastication. It's like how it mixes with the spleen energy of your mouth, which is why, you said like the Taoists talk about drink your food and chew your water. So you're actually mixing it with the energy of your body, which is interesting. But it's like and not having it cold and all that.
Yeah, and when you have this is interesting when people get high blood pressure. It's like one of the ways you can actually calm down hypertension is actually to have more water, or celery juice, lemon water, things like this that have been noticed, because it thins the blood, right? So even of research I've shown, so that water does that as well. But it's interesting. So okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to drink less water and see how I feel. But getting up to pee in the night would actually be not getting up to pee in the night would actually be beneficial. When do you stop drinking? Well, what time is it now? It's 8 o'clock there. Would that be the last thing you have before you go to bed?
It's 9 o'clock. What's the last thing?
That smoothie.
Yeah, I usually have a smoothie before bed. Smoothie or just a couple of eggs before bed. Yeah, I never drink before bed, that's for sure. It's I'd have to be really thirsty. I'd have to have not had enough hydration through the day by whatever means to need a drink before bed, but that's basically never. So that's the thing. It's just we're not meant to get up to urinate during the night. You're meant to have an unbroken sleep. So it's
interesting you say that, because I've seen research on both sides. It's really, I've seen previous research said that we're actually meant to sleep 4 hours, have an hour, and then sleep another 4 to 5 hours. It's the problem with it. There's so many different things, but I know what you mean. Getting up in the evening, just as you said, you look at things and go, they're not drinking all that water. It is an inconvenience, and there's always research to prove other different things, but.
Well, it's usually a sign of, you think about why the kidneys release or the bladder releases, it's due to stress. Somebody's stressed or in fear, they piss themselves. It's that's literally the effect. That's what happens. So regardless of whether you're supposed to sleep 4 hours, get up, you're not supposed to get up to piss. If what you're talking about I know what you're talking about, and they related that more to how people used to do. And it was in hotter countries like Spain and that, where they do a lot of their work at night because it's way too hot to do during the day. And so, and it's valid, but it was more valid then when our bodies were less toxic and didn't need as much repair. All the growth and repair happens when you're asleep. And from the circadian rhythms, that between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. is where physical repair happens. 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is where psychological repair happens. So if you're breaking that up, you're missing out on some repair cycles. Wasn't that big of a deal back then. There was more nutrients in the soil, less stress in the environment, less stress everywhere. So it wasn't as big a deal. That's why I keep saying, things like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, they're great, but they were developed 5,000 years ago. They didn't have vaccines back then. They didn't have chemtrails. They didn't have a stupid lifestyle like we have. Our bodies are different now than they were then because of the stresses that we're exposed to. So their methods, while they still hold a lot of truth, they don't have a direct carryover to our bodies today in Western culture. That's why it's more important to be eating more raw food, where Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine both cook a lot of their foods for different properties. But it doesn't apply as much now because the raw foods primarily detoxify. And that's not something that they had an issue with. We do. And the same with the way that the stress cycles are there. That's why sleep is so important now, because of how much we're actually not getting in the first place and how unrestful our waking days are, even looking at these screens. They didn't have screens back then. This makes a huge difference to how our brain and our melatonin is being wired. So if you're getting up during the night, it's not the same world it used to be. So a lot of these things, when people write these books or papers and it's like, did you know that this and that? And it's like, yeah, but dude, that was hundreds of years ago.
Mm.
It just doesn't apply now. It's
Yeah.
just not the same world. So it's
100%. No, I do know I get an EMFs and etc. There's many things. So yeah, it's why you've got to. No, I 100% agree. So is your urine generally clear, or is it quite
no, never.
dark?
It's always got color in it. Yeah, there's color. It's got to have color in it. It can't be dark or glow in the dark or whatever, like looks like plutonium. It can't be like that. But if it's clear, it's that's you've got too much water in the system. It's washing away minerals and stuff. It's got to have some. It's got to be basically pale yellow. It's got to be a pale yellow stream.
So with this, I've got some raw apple cider vinegar in here. Okay, if I usually put some fulvic minerals in as well. That structures the water.
Yeah.
I also put it in a Flower of Life carafe, which energetically structures the water.
Yeah.
So that's
different.
Good. So that's different to having just water out of the tap. I mean, and also my water's it's filtered from the mains. I've got and so it's very different to drinking normal water.
Yeah. It is, yeah. So that absorbs what you're drinking absorbs way better than just plain water from a tap without the filtration, the additional additives, and the structuring energetically. That's all making it more available to the body.
Cool. And when you say people drink water and they actually get more thirsty and want more water, why is that?
That's one of those negative feedback loops. So it's like as you do that, then the body is expelling its water. It's stressing the system out. You get a dry mouth. You think you're thirsty. You keep drinking. Your mouth gets drier, and you keep drinking. It's one of those feedback loops. So it's a stress reaction essentially. Right. Same as when you get stressed. People get stressed. They're like, oh fuck, I've got to do a speech. It's like, oh fuck, I need some water. It's a stress reaction.
So in the morning, after you've been asleep for 8 hours, because I would say, if I went up to the mirror and held a mirror in front of my mouth and breathed out on it, that's condensation. So if you've been sleeping for 8 hours and breathing out lots of condensation, when you wake up, I mean, lots of people I've worked with, etc., say that when you wake up, your body's in that constricted mode, like it's quite dehydrated. Do you have water then? When do you have your water, or do you just have raw foods?
No, I have. Well, the first thing I have is usually a vegetable juice, some kind of green juice like celery, zucchini, parsley, coriander, and some lemon juice. That's my favorite one. So I usually have that, and then 45 minutes to an hour later, I'll have a solid meal. So I do start, but I can vary that. I can start the day on like meat and eggs and stuff, and that's still primarily hydrating because the eggs are 85, 90, probably 90. I think they're more than 90% water, and the meat, depending on the cut, is 60 to 65.
Raw
70%
raw eggs.
Raw meat, yeah. It's all raw. So this is the thing, is that I don't need the water because I eat all raw food. So I'm getting a lot of water from the food. When somebody has a primarily cooked and processed food diet, they do need more fluids in the diet because it's not coming from the food. That's the distinction. Mm-hmm. That's where the distinction is.
Cool, interesting. All right, man. No, it's interesting. I'll definitely be. I've sort of noticed that as well with the minerals. You have to have water that's structured, and you have to have minerals in it. Otherwise, I mean, the water's so depleted in minerals anyway. And if people haven't had a tap, they need to get filtered. There's different things like that. Interesting. The other one I see you do a video on was detoxification, which I thought was really interesting, and I agree with. So everything you say. I remember one of the girls, she's actually a friend, and she's like, "Oh, wow, I just can't seem to get rid of this." Right? So it's because you're chronically stressed, and also your body's probably trying to detoxify certain things at the moment. So you're chronically stressed. You're in survival mode. You're retaining water. It's probably doing it because it needs some fats there to keep the toxins that you had come into your body, so it can then start to extract them. Body wraps toxins in fat. Otherwise, they would destroy central nervous system and other nervous systems. So it's really interesting. But you got some good feedback on that.
Yeah. So that's look, there's a lot of misconceptions around it. A lot of people think you need to starve yourself to detox, but it's just not how the system works at all. It's not a fast process. The body can only let go of a certain amount of toxicity because it's toxic. It can't just be free. It can't just dump it all into the body. It'll kill it. So the body will only let go of a small percentage every year. So therefore it takes time. Therefore you can't starve yourself over time. You have to feed your way to detoxifying the body and support the detoxification pathways in the body, which all require calories nutrients, like high quality nutrients. That's what runs the pathways, not starving. So it's a bit backwards the way. Same thing. It's just everything's sold. It's like money making stuff. Just eat lemons. Just starve yourself. Just do this. Just have water. Just all this. It's all just money making stuff because it's really easy to take one thing and then analyze it a certain way, and it makes it look like the best thing in the world. Like you and I could write a book if we teamed up called The Turnip Diet or something, and like figure out all these reasons why turnips are just the number one food and it's all you need. Just do turnips for 6 months and you'll be healthy. And everyone will read it going, this is the best thing ever. Why haven't I ever thought of doing this? And then me and you are on an island somewhere, just like, then we'll write our second book called You Guys Are a Bunch of Fucking Idiots. Yeah. And then with a picture of us with our arms around each other on an island that we just bought from all the book sales.
With a big turnip.
Like you can do that.
An island shaped like a turnip.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you can do it. The thing is with it, it's like the guy goes, oh, I know a guy who eats 30 bananas a day. It's like, great, go for it. See how it works out for you. Like, some people can get away with being vegan. Most people can't. Yeah. Like, some vegans, why are you promoting this and that? I get in my inbox sometimes. It's like, because it works for most people. Being vegan for most people doesn't. And it's like, if it works for you, fantastic. But just keep an open mind enough to when it stops working, like it does for many people, especially vegans, think, oh, is it my diet? And I've dealt with people, probably you have as well. I say, what's more important to you, being healthy or being vegan? And they said being vegan. I was like, cool, well, you're not for me then, because I'm interested in you being healthy yourself. But it's really interesting when you say about the detoxification pathways, because most people don't realize that most people's bodies hasn't even got enough nutrients to detoxify.
Yeah,
and they need the nutrients in it to pull things out, to chelate out of the cells. Yeah. And this is why you said that the raw saturated fats are really important. And then you've got things, like, algae or greens, etc. They put certain things, lemon water, all these. And fasting, any animal in the wild that gets ill, they go and fast because they just want to get their body reset. But they're doing it. They're doing it for a different way for detoxifying. It's a way of detoxifying. It's a way of resetting, but the animals have also been eating so many nutrient-dense foods and been living in accordance with Mother Nature. It's very different to what people are doing in our world, right? They're eating. It's like one of my friends, she got a dog and she feeds it sometimes like carrots and blueberries and stuff like that. I'm like, you can't be feeding that thing blueberries. Like, it's like, have you seen that Joe Rogan thing about? Ever seen that? Oh, he's got a fucking fantastic bit called Vegan Cat. He's like, he was out hunting once and he caught an elk, and he was like, look at this elk, and he put hashtag vegan, and he was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And he said, I've never had such vile retroviral abuse from such loving, kind people. And he said, one woman put in his thing, I hope you die, your children die, and your wife dies in front of your eyes. And he's like, I wonder what this lovely person's doing. So he clicked on her page, and he was like, well, and he saw this hashtag, like she had a cat. He's like, hashtag vegan cat. He's like, what's this? He's like, I thought it'd be like people that are vegans that feed, like the people that are vegans that have cats. He's like, no. These are people that think it's a good idea to feed their cat vegan food. And he goes, after this show, you will go home and you will put in hashtag vegan cat, and you will see thousands of cats that look like they've been living on a gas plant for the last 6 years, like all that. He said, you see that as cat, and it sees a squirrel, it's like, does that sort of thing. It's like, I remember. It's like, they want to eat. He said, like, he's got these GMO cats that have never actually seen any sort of squirrel before. He said he's at the window with one of them, and it sees a squirrel walk past, and it just starts with that thing like, I remember the old ways. It's like, you need to see this sketch. It's hilarious. I was literally wetting myself. It's so true.
Yeah, right.
And I gave her, and I bought some lamb the other day, and I gave her dog this lamb, and he was just like basically almost like, I think he almost wet himself, how excited he was. He's eating his lamb. Like, this is where, to be fair, she feeds him other good stuff as well. But as I say, I had some raw lamb. I was like, this is what he's meant to eat. He said, no, but they can eat this and that. I was like, well, where's he going to pick berries in the wild? Where's he, you know what I mean? All these animals they can feed. Where's he going to pick berries? Or
squishing it with his paw to see how ripe it is. Oh, that one's good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like same with cats and people, or whatever they feed them. Like, where are they getting this in the wild? When people feed ducks bread, they're like, what's a duck's eat? It's like, when do they pop down the shop to get a loaf in the wild? Like, what are you on about? They eat bugs. Like, that's what they eat. And you're sitting there feeding them a loaf of bread. But anyway, this is for certain thing people just because they've been so brainwashed into thinking like this is what people eat, you know.
Yeah.
And people don't realise how much dog food and things like that are just full of. I mean, I went to the vets once and looked at the bag that they recommended people to have, and I was like, I wouldn't feed this to my worst enemy, let alone my best friend as my dog, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so backwards.
They do it because it's the same as the pharmaceutical model. Like that makes the animals need to go in for veterinary care, and they keep them on drugs and stuff regularly. And then, but the funny thing is, though, even vets, who a lot of the time actually are just, you know, I'm sure they got into it because they care about animals. That's definitely the case. But they get brainwashed by their training and think that dogs need worming this and parasite that and just all this crap. And the food that science diet food for the dogs, it's like, that's not what dogs eat. But even they say, like they get so many people, they get upset because of the animal abuse that constitutes feeding cats vegan diets. And they get so many cats coming in and they're like, dude, are you feeding this thing meat? And they're like, no. It's like, you can't feed a cat a vegan diet. Like vets are saying that. And it's like,
no, well, of
more
course
so
you
than
can't.
dogs.
Of course you can't. Have you ever seen a cat catch a bird? Right, rips it. I mean, it's like that bird's got an hour to live, as Rogan said, only because it's going to play with it for 59 minutes first, yeah, and talk to it, yeah, before it then just devours it and like crunches it.
Yeah.
My mate I used to work with, he used to have 2 Bengal cats, and he used to see what they come out like. So these things, to eat raw meat, I couldn't feed it raw meat. It's like, why not? That's what it would eat in the wild. What do you think? It's like, it's just madness. And no, you're 100% right. Like cats, cat feeding it cucumber and blueberries and cranberries. Like, it's just fucking mental. It's like it is
mental. But that's the thing. It is a mental disease. Like and fair enough. You know, some people do veganism and it's like just their thing. It's not what everyone else has to do. They don't project it onto their pets. It's just like, no, I want to be vegan, and I can't argue with that. It's like they're not. I'm not going to tell them anything different because that's like it's their path and it's their path. You can't argue somebody's experience in their path. It's just when people have it as this trauma part of their pain body of the ego just latches on to like animals or this or that, and everything has to be about that. But it's all coming from trauma and pain. It's not coming from feeling nature and God and everything else. It's only coming from trauma and pain. And so it's projected. It's always projected out. And that's why that's it. It's like, that's why that Rogan bit's so funny, because it's like, how vile are these people in their words towards other humans, when you would think that the whole idea of being vegan is to be more loving and more caring and things like that. But it's not the case in most cases. Most vegans are militant. They're very militant and about 100%. It's a dogmatic eating disorder that's a religion. It's the same as criticizing somebody's faith in Krishna or Allah or
100%.
Jesus.
It's like trying to tell a Christian to become a Jew or a Jew to become a Muslim if you tell them something different. And it's like, I don't see carnivore people in carnivore out there caning vegans. Generally, unless they've been attacked first, it's usually the other way around. And this is why I say, I don't care what you do, go and do what you want to do. If it's working for you, fantastic. But it's when it doesn't work for a lot of people and they don't look at what's actually going on. And it's like, you've read Dr. Weston Price, the only tribes who didn't eat meat were ones that wasn't readily available. And it hasn't got to be a lot of meat. Sometimes it's just can be sometimes some eggs or whatever it is, but it makes a world of difference. Like their vegan poster boy, Tim Sheaf, had a vegan clothing line, had everything. Who's like that, and he was at such a pickle. He was like doing urine therapy every day. He was trying everything he could to try and stay healthy. And he finally ate some salmon and some roe, and he was like, oh my god, changed his life. He had a lot of things going on. Do you know about this story?
No.
Tim Sheaf, and they all caned him, like criticised him for like literally vile abuse. And he's like, so I want me to stay vegan because even though it's destroying my health, it's like, where's your compassion for humans? So it's like people think like it's a big thing. Like, I prefer that animals to humans. It's like cool if you want to say that, but like, I quite like humans. I quite like.
We are animals too.
I like.
Just human animals.
Yeah, I like everyone. It says I don't understand why you've got compassion for one thing. It's almost like I sometimes find it's a little bit like spiritual arrogance or whatever they want to call it. Like it's almost like I prefer this because humans. But not all humans are like that. It's like demonizing a dog because they're attacked. It's like not all dogs are like that. Not all animals. It's just like this is the thing with it. But no, it's interesting. So. And to get back on that, man, just for people out there, because I think it's an interesting topic with the detoxification. Because I say to people, like, you may sometimes go through a healing crisis or a hex reaction, we call it. And a lot of people think things aren't working when in fact they are. And you said you went through some sores under your arms, and I've been through. I mean, you know what? I actually had one come up the other day. I actually had shingles come up. Funny. I was going through a thing. I had it here on my wrist and here. And that's just where I've been just cleaning the body. My body actually pulled it out, and it was from actually I think a parasite released it. Having tapped into kinesiology, and it was not from me. It wasn't contagious. It come out. I was like, interesting. I must be doing some good stuff. Where I've actually got even in other years of things that I've gone through, but that's still coming out.
Yep.
Where I'm getting through different layers.
Yep.
And so people, and I didn't have any pain with it. It wasn't anything like that. And but people can go, oh, I feel a bit worse, or getting a headache, or get a skin discharge, and that's all part of it, right?
Yeah, it's all good stuff. Any discharge from the skin, any rash, any mucus that comes out of you, any foul things that come out of your bum, it's like that's all good stuff. All of it's good because it's the body expelling. It's headaches. That's a good sign. All of it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and because you've been through it as well. I remember you saying you had it with your skin, quite a few lesions and stuff, and it's something that people sometimes they stop because they think it's not working when in fact it is. You said you had burns, didn't you, underneath your arms?
They were burns that came out from, that was mercury coming out from the gland. This is where your lymph nodes are, or some of them under the arms. That was mercury. Had burns. There's lymph nodes there. You got a few. You got here. You got some around here. Then you got some in your groin.
Did you? Because I always got like sore throats and glands up here, and that was the thing from my brain as well, from mercury. My mum had a mouthful of mercury. I think it was pretty sure that like there's quite a lot of fat in the brain, so I think heavy metals in the brain is quite common. So it comes out through your lymphs in your neck a lot of the time. You get quite susceptible to sore throats when I was younger. And it's interesting, like certain things doing that. But a lot of people. So you had those sores, and how long did they last for? You think you said a couple of weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks. About a month in total, actually.
Yeah. Uncomfortable.
Yeah. Really painful, really uncomfortable, but I was loving it still, just because I knew what it was. I knew it was that shit leaving the body, so I was like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. Except for the pain. That was a bit annoying, but...
What was your diet like generally during that time?
Well, really good. That's the thing. The diet was helping to speed that up and to arrest the additional toxicity.
What was it mainly though? Was it having more saturated fats?
Mostly more raw meats, raw eggs, raw dairy. Mostly those, with vegetable juice in there, and maybe one piece of fruit a day in the afternoon. Yeah. Mostly that.
One piece of fruit a day in the afternoon. What was your fruit you were having?
Papaya or pineapple.
Yeah, because Wonderplant's got a big proponent of that, isn't he? One piece of fruit a day, I think.
I don't know. I think he ate a bit more than that, but for me, it's not like a logical thing. It's just like I just sometimes feel like a bit of fruit, but like in the last few months, I haven't eaten any fruit. So it was just like I was going through my body at that time was just like I want some fruit. While I was going through that, the burns and stuff, my body wanted some fruit. So it was and it wanted that tropical fruit. It's just that there's got a lot of enzymes in it. That might have been the reason. Yeah. So you got the bromelain and the whatever the one is in papaya. I forget.
Yeah, papaya's got a lot. Yeah, papaya's got a lot of it. It's funny. Like, I mean, and also the papaya, the actual seeds, if you blend them up, they're very antiviral.
Parasitic, isn't it? Anti-parasitic.
Yeah. But it's interesting. So this is but it's funny when people like sometimes they just eat because they feel like they need to eat for. Or that they think, I haven't had this today, and I need to have this today. Where it's like, if you don't listen to your body, a lot of the time it will tell you what it wants. And if you said you haven't eaten fruit for a while, is that is that because you've been in the winter, and as you go into summer, you maybe need some more? Like, do you ever feel like that? I get that sometimes with the seasons. Like, I always feel like in the summertime, I always have a lot more salads than I would in the winter.
Yeah, that's really common too, And now that when I think about it, so that happened when it was hot. I remember. So that was basically coming out of the summer or into the summer last year. So now we're just coming into the summer this year. So it was like nearly a year ago and it was hot. And so that's one of the reasons, So through the winter year, I basically haven't eaten any fruit. I don't think I've eaten any. I don't think I have. It's been months I haven't eaten any fruit.
Yeah, it's like, and that just shows, right? Just listening to your body, what you're doing. So no, it's an interesting one. That if anyone hasn't listened to it, but you get a lot of people on the detoxification of things, they don't realise, but it's just getting people to eat healthier and just to live like that more holistic lifestyle will allow their body to go through that process. But it's an interesting one about water, my man, and about detoxification. The other one I see you did a good video on, we touched on it slightly, was on masculinity and the feminine, which is something that we can have a little. But that feels like it's been. I mean, different things. I mean, I'll just off the top of my head just go through like things that have changed. I mean, even in the vaccines, they've put in certain chromosomes, right? So certain DNA, so it affects people's chromosomes. So like the female can get an extra, I think it was a masculine one, and vice versa. I'm trying to think what it was, but then also the chemicals they're putting on foods that affect the higher levels of estrogen and affect the masculine medication, and that then goes in the water supply people were drinking, affects the masculine. What was it? What else is it? Sprays, perfumes, deodorants, hair products, and then just like demonizing anything that is masculine. It's weird, but all those things add up, and all of a sudden you've got like this. And also that the society pressures about what it takes to be, strong. I don't know about you, Tom, but I have a lot of single mums follow me, okay? And I'm always like, just a little bit like, not feel sorry for them, but I'm a little bit like, what's happened here? Why is there so many single mums now? Is it a society thing? Like, obviously you went with the wrong person, or did they sell you this thing that you don't need a partner? Because all research shows that, children that are raised by two parents, it's much better for them mentally, emotionally. It's not a derogatory thing on single mothers, single parents at all, but it's just showing what research, having a mum and a dad there all the time is going to do that. What do you think? Like, I mean, showing women they don't need men as well, and how they can be strong. Like, there's a few things at play here, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I know some girls that look at who follows me and they say you've got a lot of single mum followers. I think I have the same.
Looking for a strong alpha male character, right?
Yeah.
Looking for a strong character.
Yeah, I think that what happens is it's partly the societal engineering in the first place, where things happen quite quick and then just things fall apart and people don't understand why it's falling apart. It's because they haven't understood the real dynamics in the first place. So I don't know, this probably, to go into that, it's there's a lot of different ways that happens. But see, a lot of the women, they do want a man. It's not just because they think that they can do everything. They don't need a man in their life. They do want it, but it's like they just got involved with a guy that's not really the right guy. And then also, though, it's just kind of like, I don't know why people think that. See, I won't say too much because I can't give out names or anything, but there's a girl I've been talking to recently we started out talking a lot about monogamy, and she really didn't like the fact that I didn't think it's a real natural thing to have. And then she just assumed that I'm totally against it. And I said, no, I'm just against it as a rule that is a fence post that you fence in a relationship or love or whatever, without it getting that way organically. And I see that as one of the primary reasons that people break up, is because they put all these expectations and rules and ethics and dogma in place, which makes it impossible to live up to. Therefore, there's tension and resentment, and it just breaks the relationship up. And also in society, we have this thing where we have, what's it called, a secular family or whatever. And it's like, that's not natural. Before, when you could have a baby with somebody, if you didn't really love them, it didn't matter, because the kid was raised by brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, and elders. Our society, we put this great deal of pressure on raising a kid because, no, it's my kid. You don't tell my kid what to do. My kid has its own TV, its own phone, its own microwave, its own air conditioner. We have our own car and our own this. It's just like, well, how's this world working out for everyone? Because that's not the natural way. We're a tribal species. We're supposed to be raised by everybody. That's why the indigenous cultures were always so successful, until white people went and shot them all and injected them with diseases. So it's like, and then put in the colonial ways, which is this secular thing. It's a line in the sand, and those lines break everything apart. So that's why there's a lot of single women that are single mothers that just, either they had fairy tale fantasies and the guy was like, dude, I don't think you get this, or the guy was just had his own ideas of what it was and didn't know how to really commit to loving somebody and raising a kid, and just pissed off because it was scary. It's always both sides. It's not just one. It's always men. It's always women. It's not. It's like everyone's playing a role.
Cool shit.
And
well, monogamy is like I'm with you. It's like it's not people put a lot of pressure. It's hard, right? Because I mean, this is the thing. Like men and women are different. So I think Bill Burr talks about this. He's got a really good sketch on it actually about Schwarzenegger. He's like, yeah, it's right though, right? He's like, what? All these great men. He said, we're losing all these great men. He's like, what? The guy literally nothing but net for 4 decades in a row.
40 years.
He's like, that was a layup. That's a layup. Well, I can't do that. But if people don't know what we're talking about here, go and type in Bill Burr, Arnold Schwarzenegger. See what we're talking about. But it's like, because women don't know what it's like to have a penis between their legs. It's very, very different, to having like, we're made to have our seed around everywhere, and women are meant to find like a partner they can create, like, or just someone support. That's why they're attracted to different things. Like we're attracted to like youth and vitality, and just like, just like we don't, for example, I talk about this in hypergamy, right? Women generally marry across or up. They marry the men that are on the same level as them or higher than them. Men wouldn't care if they met someone in Hooters, for example. They don't care because they're not looking for different things. And this is why society's mad, saying we're all the same. It's like, no, we're really not. And like men, generally their sexual peaks about 35 to 45 because they know who they are. They got more money, more secure. They're more financially stable. Women's a lot younger because that once again that youth in the childbearing years. It's very, very different. As much as society might want to tell us, oh, that's not fair. I don't care. Nature doesn't really care about if you think things are fair or not. It's just the way it is. It's why you see men that are richer and older with these young women because they go for different things, and we're set out for that genetically. It doesn't matter what you're doing. We release certain hormones and pheromones, and it's like that's what it is. You can try and make around with nature, but it doesn't work. And it's like monogamy. It's like people go, oh, he's a cheat, he's this, he's that. It's like, no, he's a man. And trying to take that out of him is actually like trying to take a lot of masculine things out of men. It's westernizing or feminizing men. Like, as in a man that wants to. I mean, most men. You don't know Patrice O'Neill. He's got a great one for this, Patrice O'Neill. But he's like having men work with women. It's like having. I've got loads of female listeners. They know that I love them to pieces. And I love women, but it's like having men work with women. Women coming all dressed up, looking fantastic, smelling great. It's like having salmon dipped with honey, working with grizzly bears. And it's like, it's like, hey, grizzly bears, and they're like, and it's like, what are you on about? It's like because at the end of the day, men are like that. It's different, right? And it's how we react differently. And so monogamy is a hard one for me because obviously you want your woman to be monogamous, but it's not nice thinking about women being monogamous. But as a man, you can always see like it's hard. If they grow into it, if you meet someone you like them, it's not nice thinking of your partner with someone else. But it's also like for a lot of time for men, it can just be like live masturbation, right? I mean, it's not even like they want anything else. It's just like different. Whereas I think women might get this as well, but it's a different.
A lot of women are a lot more rampant than men. Or equally so. It's like the way it works though is that biologically a man can legit love equally many women, but women in general, they're happy with just one guy. It's like a biological thing. But see, the last 2 girls I was with, we had open relationships, and they were free to go and see whoever they wanted. I didn't care because it's like I don't get jealous. Like I don't have any insecurity as long as when they come back to me, they look at me with the same love and affection and desire, and there's not a turning of the back and that energy's going somewhere else. I don't care what they're off doing. It doesn't make any difference to me because the love and everything is still there to the point where my last girlfriend was a lot younger than me. And then I always said to her, there's the experiences in your life that you're going to need. And if you stay with me for 10 or 20 years and you miss out on some of those, there's going to be some level of resentment in your life that you missed out on some things because of rules that either you made or I made or we bought into. So I always said, if you come across somebody that there is some spark there, and it's not a what's the word? Oh, it's promiscuous. It's not a promiscuity thing where you're just bouncing onto anything or just go take a bunch of drugs and fuck some guy down the road. It's like if you come across some guy where there's another spark of life that you recognize, I want you to have that experience because that is going to make you a more whole individual. You're going to learn how to love better, and therefore you're going to be a better person. You're going to be happier, and you're going to be able to love me more, which is going to make me happier. So why would I want to contain you and keep you away from those experiences when if I love something, I want it to be as beautiful as possible. And if that means having an experience with some guys here and there, again, not a promiscuity thing, but a genuine loving experience, then I want you to have that, because I think it makes everything better. So I think jealousy is one of the most disgusting human traits there is. I hate it.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm with you on that. I'm really not a jealous person, and if I'm with someone, I'm very secure that I don't ever think that it doesn't even come to mind that they want someone else. But I would find that hard to think about my girlfriend doing certain things with someone else. That would find that hard. That's not even a jealousy thing. It's an ego thing, obviously it is. But that I would find that hard. Also, I'm a little bit like, I've worked very hard on my health. I don't know what this other guy's got. You're doing things with him.
That's where the promiscuity thing is. That's where that stuff's an issue, because that's actually attracted by a certain level. That's all attracted on an energetic level. So what it means is that if she's the right girl, she's not going to be promiscuous and doing these things with guys that are just, that's the wrong. If you think in terms of energies, she's not going to be around the wrong energies. She's going to be around the shining kind of energy that's only going to benefit her. She's going to maintain her health. It's not, and you just wouldn't be with somebody that was like a slapper in the first place. If you value yourself and your health, you're just not around somebody like that. You do not attract that unless you got really low self-esteem or something. You're not attracting that. You're with somebody who honors that in themselves and in you, and because they honor it in themselves and they're like, operating at a higher level, they're not around any guys that can offer them chlamydia or whatever. They're only around guys that are also clean and healthy. It's just an energetic thing.
Was it you said that? It turns out a lot of people have got herpes. Not me though. I don't have herpes. It's true. It's like, well, how do you catch herpes then? So, well, yeah, it's funny, but no, I do get that. That is true. It's not, but for a man, for you, for example, you say that, and this is the other thing. Like, we are so different. Men are set up to, they can love more than one, and women generally don't. They want to have that one secure person. Some do, not all, but most do. It's why they've tried to make like being a stay-at-home mum like a bad thing. They can have it all. It's like there's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mum. That's one of the best things that you can be.
Very honourable.
Very honourable. Like teaching kids how to be like better people or good people. That's where society's gone wrong, right? Because there's no one teaching these kids what to do, and they're looking for adults to and that's what you said before. The family, which is why before the government couldn't do so much either, because you had like the nuclear family where. It's like any of the mafia families back in the day, the government couldn't even infiltrate them because the family was so powerful they couldn't get in. And when you start selling things like promiscuity and all these things that basically take away from that family unit, a lot of strength goes. And that's what's happened now, right? They divide and conquered us so much: black, white, rich, poor, whatever it is, and then it's easy to infiltrate us. So when we're more as a unit. But it's interesting what you said there about them picking out that. For you, would you only go with a sexual partner that's quite healthy themselves, into health?
Yeah. I'm not like promiscuous myself. Like, I'm really picky when it comes to women. Like, even like the ones when I used to live on the Gold Coast, which is majority fake boobs, fake hair, fake everything. It's like most of them I did not find attractive one bit. It's like there's nothing about that resonates as something that I'm attracted to. And
I'm the same with that.
And so I've been like I've got mates that have slept with hundreds and hundreds of girls, and I've been with barely any, but the quality of what I've been with, they can't understand when they've got all these stories about all these girls they've slept with, but there's nothing great about any of it. The quality of the sex, the quality of the interaction, what they took away from it, and they can't understand they can't understand the love that I still have from the girls that I've been with, that still send me stuff and still tell me they love me and still all this sort of stuff, and from like years. And it's just a completely different dynamic than what other people I think experience, and it's because there's something else. I'm not looking for what other people are looking for, other guys, just in general. And there's like a completely different dynamic there, and it's not a promiscuity. It's like, for me, I can't I won't just have sex with a girl because she's got like a great set of tits or a great ass or something. It's like I have to feel something, which sounds really gay and feminine, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's like I have to feel something. Otherwise, I'm not actually that interested. There's got to be something. There's got to be some kind of love. And to the point, I've never been. Well, I stopped drinking when I was young, but I've never been drunk and made out or had sex with a girl ever. Every time I've ever been affectionate and intimate with a girl, I've been like completely lucid and present. No drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. And a lot of people can't say the same. The first time they ever hook up with someone, even if it's the person they married, it happened when they were drunk or something. They were like something, you know, for a lot of people. And I've never had that. It's always been very like hard. Yeah, it's just. But you know, Paul Check has 2 wives.
I know. People think he's a cult leader because of it. It's like, it's like he's a cult leader. It's like, well, no, he just understands. He just understands that the paradigms that we put ourselves in the Western world are pretty much load nonsense. Because people are like, oh, you can't have 2 wives. It's like, oh, but you all can all marry someone and then go and cheat with them with 16 people. But that's okay because you keep it quiet. Or, you know, you marry someone when you're 25, and by the time you're 35, you're a different person. You've got 2 kids with him, you don't like him anymore, and then you've got another family, another family. It's like, well, what makes you right? Just because society thinks that's the way to do things, it doesn't seem to be working very well. So a lot of people I know that get married later in life are much better because they actually know who the hell they are, rather than just like running into things, having kids with someone. Then, I mean, I've got friends that are already divorced and had kids with people they hate, and I'm like, I'm so lucky that I'm not in that situation. And I'm 34. They didn't even know who I was until I was like 30, 31. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And then like men are very different to that. That's why what women come for us as well, because men that are older have a different presence about them. They actually know who the fuck they are. And I'm not afraid to put things out in the world, same as you know, afraid to talk about certain things. Whereas a lot of people don't, and it's all, you said before, based on. It's like this whole Instagram. I use Instagram and social media for a purpose. I use it to put information out and to build a tribe and to do that. When I look at some of the things that come up, it's just like it's all such fucking bullshit. Like when it comes to like just people, it's basically like glossy magazines a lot sometimes, right? Like just looking at the celebrities, and it's like it's a big problem when people know who. For example, I've never ever watched an episode of it, but people talk about it all the time, like Kardashians or whatever it is. So it's just completely. Like not in my realm to even watch anything like that. And people know that who these people are. I can't even. Is it Kim Kardashian? I think it is. The people know who Kim Kardashian is, but they don't know that vaccine companies have paid over £35 billion in damages. That's a problem. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's a big thing. Yeah. And that's but unfortunately the reason that goes on in the world is because we buy it. So when people say, oh, why is the world like this? It's like, well, because people lap it up and the market's there for it. And if the market wasn't there for it, they wouldn't fucking produce it. And as you said, like that, if you stop fucking buying into this bullshit, you stop buying chemical crap food and you start buying organic food instead. You start buying into companies that actually do good and etc. That's how we change the world, really. And this is why I don't really do politics, but if I went on any side, I'd be much more conservative than I am. Conservative in certain ways than I am just like the socialists, where they look at like they want to change the world. I believe about changing yourself first. It comes from you know. And it's what said like people like activists back in the day. It's like they always look at what's going on with the world outside. It's like, well, what about you? Make the change in here, and if people do that, that's how we change a society. You know. And unfortunately, more people don't want to change themselves. They want to just try and change everything else. It's like. Jordan Peterson talks about, you know, make your own bed first, which is the thing. But it's interesting to talk about that with monogamy, man, and sexual partners. You've got a new relationship right now, haven't you?
Yeah, I started one now. And the thing is, it's like I wrote it in my book. When I talk about monogamy, I don't say that it's bad or wrong per se. It's just that getting into it as a rule, and you get involved in someone, you just throw that in there. It's like it's not natural, because the way it works, like the girl that I'm seeing now, I can be monogamous with. The reason is that there's many different levels on the way we interact with everybody. Like you and I can become really good mates, but there's certain levels that we may not ever connect on. And so what I find is that when you find somebody that you connect on basically every level, like mentally, emotional, physically, spiritually, everything in between, all these subtle levels, then essentially they have this luster. They're like full vibrant color, and everyone else around, even if they're scantily clad bikini girls and whatever, they just don't have that same level of luster. But if you've got a girl and every other girl you look at is just like equally bright and equally, it's like maybe this girl's not the one. And if you just throw yourself into it and commit to it because that sounds like a good idea or whatever, that's not a wrong thing to do. But I think you're always going to find desires for other women, because it's just not, and women are the same. Like I know how women are as well, because they tell me. Like I got there was quite a long period where I went just not understanding women. I was like, I got to understand women more. So I just kind of like that's how I learned a lot about masculinity, was from women. They kind of taught me about themselves and about what they wanted out of guys and all that. And I learned a lot from just talking to women. And when you find out, when they know they can trust you and you don't go blabbing your mouth, and that, you know, they can connect with you and trust you, they tell you everything. They tell you all the dirtiest stuff. And like, man, you're like so much more filthy than any guy. I've never heard anything come out of a guy that matches that's coming out of your mouth right now. The desires they have, the dirtiness that they have, the amount of sexual energy and vigor that they have.
Like 80%, is it? 80% have like rape fantasies, I think.
Yeah. But it's like they'll only divulge that in the company of a man who respects it and who values them and who is a man. It's like they won't tell that to like a wimpy guy or a guy who just wants something from him, like a gorilla kind of guy who just wants to bang everything. They're not going to tell him that. And they're not going to, there's only certain guys they'll tell that to. And you find out how much they don't really want monogamy either. Unless it's like, people know when they find it and it's a natural thing. And then it's the most natural thing in the world. You don't have to put rules and fences in place, because it's nature. Yeah. You want to dedicate and devote to this one individual because there's a higher purpose to it. There's like, you will both grow to become greater people, because there's this, it's like whatever it is, I can't even really describe it, but there's a higher sense to the whole thing. It's not just like, yeah, we can get a house, we can pop out a couple of kids, we can get a mortgage. How's that sound? We both have jobs, get 2 cars. How good would that be? It's like none of that sort of stuff. And then, let's have sex once a month after we have kids, and we'll schedule it in 6 o'clock on Fridays. That's our night.
Oh, mate, that sounds fucking awful to me. And
that sounds like I'd rather kill myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why people look sometimes like, when I was like, I get it sometimes. So why, when are you going to settle down? When you do this, it's like, well, when I find the right girl. Like, I'm not settling for someone just because because you've got a couple of kids, or you think that people should be doing that at that age. It's like, no, that's why most people in society are divorced and not happy. I do things differently. I've got my own business, my own job. I like to I do things very differently. I like to have conversations that I know where I'm going with things. I've got different goals, and I don't do things like society. So it's the same as you, my man. Like, you know, it's just like, I found quite early, luckily enough, I had my awakening when I was young because I was ill, but I found quite early that when society goes right, go left. Because most people are happy that way. And so that's right, as you said, like, oh, I've done all this and I got all that, and they're like, well, I'm not actually fulfilled, I'm not actually happy. Like, one of the things that my job and things like that does me fulfills, and I've got a purpose, which is huge. But also, like, finding the right girl, it's right, as you said, it becomes easy being monogamous with the right person. And when you're with that person, no one else in the room even matters, because you only care about them. There's huge. Like a world that
there's like, between your eyes and theirs, there's this world that is completely separate from the rest of the world, and you can enter that world anytime, and it's something you're directly devoted to. And you'll always, I don't know, any women listening to this, men are always going to find other women beautiful. And if they don't, they're neutering themselves, and you're going to find them less attractive, because there's a quality of a man that can't, if a woman finds a man that she likes and then she like puts a fence around him like he's a stallion or something and fences him in, it's like, you are not going to be attracted to that guy anymore, because you've tamed him, and you are attracted to his untamed, adventurous nature. So you won't be attracted to him anymore.
True.
So you want him to love you and not turn your back on him, but you don't want to tame him. You want him to maintain that sense of adventure and that masculinity. Otherwise, you're going to get bored with him, like literally. And then, so
the other way around.
The other way around. Yeah, absolutely. And then a guy is always going to see, and I've had this talk to this girl, like I've explained it and she understands it and she likes it. And it's like, I'm always going to find other women beautiful. And I'll always let them know with my eyes that I think they're beautiful and that I adore them and I appreciate their beauty. But it's not going to be a turning of my back on her, because it's like the sun or the moon. I'm not going to stop looking at the moon or a flower or a child smiling and find the beauty in that. But I'm not going to pretend, oh no, the moon, no, I don't like that anymore because I've got a wife now. So as if you're going to do that, you're literally neutering yourself if you do that. So a woman needs to understand, and a man needs to understand that too, that your partner is always going to find other things attractive and beautiful, but it's not a turning of the back on the one that you love. There's a difference. You can
100%.
feel when someone turns you back. I explained this to my friend too, that I used to go tango dancing with this girl who was from, forget where she was from. Where's Amsterdam? Holland. She was from Holland, I think. Yeah. And she, we go dancing, and it's like we had this really strong connection. And it didn't matter who we were dancing with around the room, because tango's quite intimate and close. And, yeah, you're going all around the room, but every now and then we just glance. And even though we're like embraced with somebody else, and we catch each other's eyes, and you just feel it from across the room. So at no point were we disconnected. Even if we're in concert with somebody else, very intimately connected, our connection is never broken. Even if our backs are turned to each other, we can still feel each other. And then we come back around a few dances later, we're back together again, and it's just even stronger than it was before, because you've never broken that. But what people don't like is when the back is turned. They go dance with somebody else, and they disconnect that connection. It goes, and you can feel it. So it's not the fact that people are dancing with others or they're admiring somebody else's beauty. It's that the connection is severed because they've turned their back. As long as you don't turn your back and sever the connection, you can dance with or look at anyone else in the room, thousands of people. But if that connection is maintained, then it's honored, and there's no like straying. You know, like the way we consider cheating is a real, it's just a bit backwards. It's that disconnection.
So it's interesting. I want to get to that, to the cheating bit, just because you're there. But what you said about men being, well, there's always it's like when you listen to the things like spiritually, like people have like connections from heart to heart, or like people like build these invisible connections to people. Like, so why people say like be worry about like sexual partners and stuff, because you have a connection with them. But you talk about that men being, that's massive. Like when I delved in it myself, like talking to women, but also there's lots of research. One of the books was like The Way of the Superior Man, and he's also got another one for women, and also How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Way. And you talk about this, and it's like, it's one of the best analogies I ever heard with this. Is like women are like the wind. Okay, the wind can blow, but men are like the mountain. The mountain staying still. The wind can blow the mountain, because like women want you to become. I see it all the time with my men. It's like there's a great thing on Instagram actually. It's like No Context Sport, and there's one where you know who Chris Eubank is. He's
I know the name.
Yeah, he's a former like middleweight middleweight champion boxer, I think, or maybe a bit bigger. But anyway, he's fantastic, and he's talking about a character, and on the title it's basically clips that are taken out of context. On the title it says like talking about your mate that used to have something about him, or used to be a bit of a player. And Eubank's going, he was a player, a womanizer, a gambler. He was a rude boy of the old school. Yeah, and it's like you see men that used to have a bit about them be completely just put to this little gerbil, because they've just like, the woman's put all these fences around them. They come here, and then all of a sudden the woman doesn't even fancy them anymore, because they're not who they used to be. And it's like they're doing all the things the women told them to, but really the woman doesn't want them to do that. They're saying that, but they lose their sexual attraction or even attraction to them, because they're attracted to certain things that men do, and when they're not there. And it's the same, but it's the same vice versa. You know, if you're attracted to a woman who's taking care of herself, physically attractive, etc., and then they let themselves go, or they're not the same person, that desire goes. So it's like the reason you come together in the first place, all of a sudden 10 years later, is not there anymore, because the woman's tried to like neuter the man, and like she got comfortable, or vice versa, whatever it is. And it's like that's where you can't suppress that, because otherwise you're all of a sudden these people are not who they used to be. You know, and it's just a shambles. And the thing about you said there about cheating is that so you think we've got cheating around the wrong way. You wouldn't be bothered at all by your partner or the person you're seeing going and have sexual intercourse with someone else at all. Wouldn't bother you at all.
No, I mean with my last girlfriend, I used to like, we'd be out and I'd be like, oh, what do you think of that guy? And it's just kind of like, you know, it's kind of like I'm so secure in who I am and my ability to please her and how much I love her and all that sort of stuff, that it's kind of like, oh, what about him? Why don't you go talk to him? And she's like, you know, and then it's like you're offering it out. Like I feel no need to contain a woman. It's like, it's the analogy is if you've got kids or whatever, and then they can go anywhere they want, but they'll stay right where they are. You put a fence there and you go, do not cross that fence line. What are they going to do? Oh, I'm going to fucking cross that fence. But you take the fence away and they stay right where they are. It's that people only want to challenge boundaries because you place boundaries there. And I used to actually say, well, actually both the last girls I was with liked girls as well. So they were always interested in having a threesome or going and hooking up with a girl or whatever. And I'd always be like, what do you think of them? And it's like, whereas a lot of guys are just like, don't you fucking look at another guy or I'll belt you.
That's so cringe.
So it's like, yeah. It's like offering it and like being cheeky and things like that. They literally turn and come right into you and push their body right into you because you're their sense of like, you're everything to them. It's like, you don't have to contain it. It's just, then,
when you're, it's like they actually like you more for that. When you're like that, if you're so insecure about things, that's what they always want, sort of things that they can't have, or if they think that they haven't got you. It's it's interesting. No,
it would only bother me though, Ryan. It would only bother me if she went out and got drunk and just did some dude down at the pub and whatever, and it just meant nothing. It was just she was unconscious about the whole thing. That would bother me, but not if there's genuine consideration and love and finding a higher purpose in the experience. And that doesn't bother me. I actually want them to have that. So it's not and just to the, I mean, there's a lot of different variables in that as well. Like where, I always just think it's a shame for us to go through life and not experience something that our soul needs to experience. And that's the difference. Like the ego wants to fuck something, but the soul might need to have a loving experience with something, and it's a completely different energy. There's complete different ends of the spectrum. So it's that ego style that is not for me. I don't even do that. Like I've gone years and years 3 years. I went 3 years without having sex at all, and that was not because I was being celibate on purpose or doing it for spiritual reasons or anything like that. It was just no opportunities came along that I was particularly drawn to. So it's not like I don't like that. So if a girl was going after someone for ego or to like get attention or spite me or do something, that's what I don't like. But at the same time, I'm like, well, why did she do that? I would be thinking, what is it about me that made her stray? How am I not satisfying her? What about me am I not being man enough in my life to make her feel that way? Am I not listening to her enough? Am I not man enough? Am I not satisfying her enough? Whatever it is, I'd kind of bring it back to me. I wouldn't blame her. Whereas I think what most people do is they blame, you hurt me. It's your fault. You did this. But what did you do to elicit that need that came from the ego? So then, but on the other hand, it's like if they have this soul connection, this something that needs to fill their soul, then I want them to have that because I know that they're going to grow through that. And like I said earlier, they'll be a happier and better person. They'll love me even more than they ever did because there's and I always think it's, I don't like resentments. And I don't like the idea of somebody not having some soul experience that would have helped them. And I put rules in place to stop them from having that. I don't think that that's a healthy thing to do. For me or for them. So that's why it doesn't bother me if that's the way that if a girl I'm with has another sexual experience with somebody else, if it's that soul experience. Now there's a whole other side to that story, which is the the honoring of a love, and it's a different thing, like looking at the monogamous argument, but I don't find it an argument. I think there's different energies in different circumstances, and it all really depends. And at the end of the day, like I said, I think I'd always relate it back to me. What was it about me? And then I would want to grow through that. But if she turned her back and did the ego thing, then that might, I don't know. I'd have to see. I've never had that experience. So I don't know.
When you talk about it as well, in terms of, this is the thing, there's a few different schools of thought about it as well. It's hard. I'm sort of in between. Sometimes I just get that sexual urge and it's like, it's like this masculine sexual urge. You see, so I'm very visual, very visual. And when I have a connection with someone even more, that's like, when I have that connection as well as visual, it's like what you're talking about, where it's just different level. It's just, no one else in the room matters. But sometimes I can be very visual and just get like, the urge comes over you. It's just like, okay, let's go and talk to that girl. But there is something like, as you said, like trying to get to more to that level you're talking about, where it's sort of like, preserving your own sort of honor around it, even just like your own energy around it. I think it's quite it's a next level of understand, like getting to, but also around like ejaculation or actually sexual urge and things like that. I mean, I think I heard you talk about this for a little bit before, but there's different schools of thought on this, right? There's like some people think that holding in that sexual energy is really good. I think it's a Taoist, or the monks think that, and other tribes out there feel like stifling that stops the actual free flowing of energy. What do you reckon? What's your sort of?
It's a bit of both, and it depends on the application.
Mm.
So there's both have merit. And again, it depends. It's like, are you having sex with someone out of ego or out of a soul experience? Are you pretty much masturbating inside of a woman, or you're actually making love with the woman, and it's a combined thing with two energies combining, becoming one? It's like, what is the level of what's going on? And that determines whether holding on or ejaculating is good, bad, or indifferent, or whatever. It's just different. Like when, the girls I've been with, there's been a lot of times that I would hold on to my fluids, and then there's other times where it's just like it's the best thing for both to release and all that kind of thing. It's like they've each got their benefits, and I think you have to be aware of yourself to be aware of the situation, to know in which situation either holding on or releasing is the right way to go based on what the because most people just aren't at that level of considering all these things. It's just sex feels good, and they want to do it, and they want to blow their load, and then that's it. It's like that is sex to them. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's just the level that they're at. But there's just, as you grow more, you start to find different levels in different experiences, and then if there's other things to consider. So I don't think there's one particular answer. I think people just make a decision. It's like, well, I think I should be a vegetarian. I'll only eat this way. Or whatever it is. It's like, to me, it's buying into a dogma and not being able to experience all of what life has to offer. And that's not wrong either, but that's just the level they're at. They need a dogma or a religion or a rule book to live under to feel safe and secure. Whereas the level above that is that of having all possibilities, and not having a narrow mind where only things that fit within this narrow thing are okay and everything outside is wrong or offensive. Like, that's narrow-mindedness. So I prefer to have the most open mind and the most open heart and soul possible to allow all experiences, which is what God is. God is all experiences. So it's that's where I'm wanting to be, and not limit myself by rules and man-made ideas. And
it comes down to what you feel at the time and what situation you've got, which I think is just like, it comes down to that, everything really. Like, you can do certain things and read certain things, but when you feel a certain way about something, is there anything that really trumps that? Is there anything that really trumps that? Your growth and how you're experiencing things and what you feel around it. And once you actually start to understand that, but as you said before, not many people are on the level that we're talking about here, Tom. Most, it's just, it's just monkey see, monkey do, right? When you're thinking,
but there's also there's a lot of different things in that too. So based on the way I was just talking, you might have some people listening thinking, oh, he's just talking about tantric sex, and you light candles and you do yoga while you're doing it, and you stand on your head and whatever, and you levitate. It's like, but it's everything. It's like, it's literally being as animalistic as, it's like, it's literally, as a man, it's taking that woman, it's ravishing her. It's like being slow, and then it's flipping her over, and then it's bending her over the thing, and it's putting her up against the wall, and then it's not, so people make that mistake. They think, oh, enlightenment means like gently everything, but it's not. It's like the greatest thing that a man can do is be a man, and the greatest thing a woman can do is be a woman. And then that means that it can be that energetic tantric style thing, or it can just be as visceral and animalistic as can be on the deepest primal level. And all are operating in that higher level, because it's not. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like every single one of those is operating on a high level.
That what you said there, like men being a man is being the best thing for women, and the thing is, it's like the polar. Like, the more feminine a man is, the more masculine a woman is can be attracted to. The more masculine a man is, like, for example, I know for me, I like very feminine women.
Yeah, same.
Feminine, because I'm that sort of, if I had a masculine woman, it would be a complete clash, and she'd end up killing her, because it's just like, it wouldn't work. I'm just that sort of person. And because you're like most, it's not many like alphas out there today anymore, but like, that's just the way it is. And that women said to me, probably like they have to you, it's like, you make me feel so like feminine, so safe. It's like, well, it's because just how you are, you can just tell. Even the fact you're on here talking about this sort of stuff is what most men wouldn't even do. It's just like, it shows vulnerability. That's another strength as well. But it's something that having that ability as well, is like you said before, I think you said it. I think Jordan Peterson talked about it before. It's like being, you say, or like, would you just say like being enlightened or being nice? Being a nice man doesn't mean you're a good man. Being a good man is someone who's got the ability to literally fucking rain fire down on earth, but doesn't, because he knows who he is. He's secure in himself. The same with like when you've got that strength around women, they really, they come into it. They enjoy being around that sort of presence. And I think it's definitely important when you talk about that in terms of a man or being enlightened, having that raw sexual energy. It's needed at certain times, right? It's all courses for courses, depending on where you are and the energy of the interaction.
Yeah.
But no, it's not just about definitely just not about being enlightened and airy fairy. I think most people that are like that. You mentioned it before. It's like when people sit there and talk about health and they look like they can be blown away in the wind, or they look like they crush a car if they sit on it. It's the same as like some people talking about these things. Do you know who? It's really interesting. I think his name is John Whitehand. You know him? He's like a bit of an. He does lots of stuff, but he talks about the masculine and feminine. He's really good. And one of the ladies I interviewed is Stevie Wright. She's brilliant. She was on a call. He did like a live call with her and her partner, and they were talking about this. And I think sometimes like men as well, they don't want to, like you said before, that women do want to be ravished. And for me, that's such a natural thing to do, right? And maybe it's for you as well. But he keeps talking to him. It's like, you said, well, what does he not do that you'd like him to do more? He's like, well, I want to be ravished. And he was a little bit taken back by it. And he was like, is that something you could do? He's like, yeah. So, well, what's been happening? He's like, sometimes I might feel like I'm overstepping the mark. I don't want to hurt her. Or it's just like some men are not like that. They're just not like that. Whereas for me, ravishing a girl is so like it's just my sexual energy. There's other times you do things differently. It probably is to you, but that once again comes from the person and how they feel and I suppose just who they are as much as anything else. When it just comes naturally, and when you're like that naturally, as you said, it's nature. If you're like that, then if you're that masculine, then the feminine will take its course. It's like women want to be led, right? It's why they go, well, where do you want to eat? Or where do you want to eat? It's like, no, we're eating here, we're going here, be ready. They love that sort of thing. That's just on a basic level. But it just shows that energy of like, but horses for courses, there's so much great you can learn about the feminine energy and even tapping into it as a man. It's important to have that there as well. I think we covered quite a lot here, mate. I think it's been a good conversation.
Yeah.
We covered quite a lot. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, just just because I know if some younger guys are listening, it can be confusing. So it's it is you got to lead, but it's also it's like the woman asks for it on an unconscious level. So when sometimes she needs you to be gentle with her and caressing and all that sort of stuff, but then it's like there's other times that you'll miss the cues, but she's giving you the cues to just take the lead and take her. It's like her body wants it, and if you know how to read it. Then you're not like, oh, am I going to hurt you? You don't have to ask that because you know when she's ready and when she wants it. And then you're the one, directing things. But it actually comes from her in the first place. That she kind of like, it's kind of subtle. And just in case some guys are listening to this and they're like, first thing I'm going to do when I get home is I'm going to throw against the wall. You get some call, it's like, Ryan, I'm in jail.
No, it's just like it's reading but that comes from that's what I was going to say to you before. Like, obviously, I went through certain things that when I was younger, so I was ill for a certain time. I didn't take my shirt off for 7 years because I was so embarrassed about my skin. And you get there, but I didn't even know who I was for a certain age. And you get there, now you start to read the signs. And when you become older as a man, you start to understand it. Unfortunately, some guys never do. I remember talking to people last year about this when I was on holiday, and he was like, "How do you know this?" It's like, I could just feel it. I can just see it in her eyes. I can just see her energy. Like, I don't have to ask her. It's obvious.
Yeah.
It's like the cues that you may not notice or you don't take advantage of because you're too afraid to. Like, real men don't say real men. The masculine doesn't wait. Just know it. Like that's a sign. When you can understand those things, and it's the same vice versa. Like as you said before, when they don't want that, you'll see it. You can read off the signs, or when the time's right. It's like it's different to making love with something more animalistic. It's like you can see those signs. So you don't just stick the forehead. Well, sometimes that can work, but I think it's reading the situation. But that's once again, it's like being in tune with the energy of the room, and the more healthy you are, and the more grounded you are, the easier that becomes. It's just like,
yeah, definitely, yeah. And you can create that situation too, where it's okay to just, you're not even reading anything, you're just creating the environment where she wants it. And then that's like, it's when you're not conscious of what's going on with yourself. That's when you can run into, that's when things can go bad for both parties. But yeah, but I think that was a good, we covered quite a few things. So
that's good, man. Cool. Well, mate, I'll leave the interview there, and we can just touch base when we go forward. And I'll obviously, I said before, actually, one of my friends is getting married to an Aussie girl. Hopefully, we'll be able to get over there without any vaccinations. We'll get back on anyway. We'll have a chat in a few weeks or a month or so, and we'll see how things go. Awesome, man. Really good to speak to you, Tom.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Ryan.
So there we have it, guys. That was a really, really fun, interesting conversation with Tom. And, it won't be the last one. Literally can't wait to meet the guy face to face. We're going to have so much to talk about, and we'll bring you some cool stuff. And he's one of the good guys. And I loved all the people I have on the show. They're people that really care about humanity, and people that are not afraid to speak their mind when it comes to the truth. So often now today, with what's going on, the truth just gets diluted or pushed apart. And with this whole sort of like agenda, or everyone that, as we talk about, the offended police, everyone wants to be offended. Some people don't like saying things as they are, and when it comes down to it, the truth will set you free, and the truth, the facts don't care about your feelings, as Ben Shapiro says. And when it comes to a lot of this stuff, stepping outside of nature, stepping away from the truth has led to the situation we find ourselves in today. So it's really important, I feel, that we speak the truth. And when it comes to things like what we talked about today, especially like relationship, sexuality, important to express that. And it's something that doesn't get talked about enough, because it's a bit of a taboo topic, or people don't like to talk about it. Monogamy and sexual experience, relationships, and even the masculine and feminine topic today. It's something that's it's been bastardized so much that people, trying to teach, they're trying to tell us in the mainstream that men and women are all the same, and we're not, and we never will be. Obviously we're humans, so we're more similar than we are different. But when it comes to, men and women are different. Anyone who's ever lived with the opposite sex knows that. And so it's really important for us to have that conversation. And I think we covered some good stuff there with Tom, and a lot of other things, detoxing, water, just a lot of good information there for you to take on board. And I'm sure me and Tom will dive into some more stuff in the future. So that's it for this week. As always, if you are dealing with a health issue and you're looking for someone to help you overcome it, the doctors, specialists, consultants haven't been able to help, then don't hesitate and give me an email at ryan@reviveyourself.co. That's ryan@reviveyourself.co, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Or if you're following me on Facebook, Ryan Martin or Revive Yourself, give me a message on there. Or at Instagram at Ryan__Martin_ or revive_yourself.co. It's just revive_yourself on Instagram. I'll get back to you there. On Instagram, though, as I mentioned before, I have been shadow banned, so if you can please comment, like, share any of my content, it will be greatly appreciated, as we need to get this information out to as many people as possible, and their only sense of the truth. But otherwise, people, that's it for this week. Lots of love. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
If you're struggling with gut issues, such as gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, heartburn, and want to finally be able to eat the foods you love without the crippling after effects, then don't forget to head over to reviveyourself.co and pick up your free copy of The Healing Health Paradigm today.